Hello everyone, welcome to Brown Queen Diaries Season 2. This is a platform where we celebrate fearless South Asian women who are breaking barriers, redefining success, carving their paths to make an impact. Today we have a guest who is a lawyer, content creator and a strong advocate for feminism, gender equality and colorism. So let's welcome Devni Vihara. Hi Devni, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. We've had some technical difficulties today, but we're going good.
That's good. So, let's start with the introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Devni, and I was born in England. So I was born in England, lived there till I was 6 years old, then lived in Sri Lanka. So I was in Sri Lanka till I was 16, and then moved to Melbourne for year 12. I think living in three different places really solidified my values. Like I think having three very distinct experiences in three very separate life stages, I think I was really aware of the issues that people face from a very young age. And I think that has led me to where I am today in terms of what I believe in. But moving to Australia as a 17-year-old, I always say it was like jumping out of the plane and figuring out the parachute on the way down. I moved here by myself, and like I've had a lot of support from my family, but moving here by myself, figuring it out, and then once I finished school, I studied a Bachelor of Arts. So I did international politics and gender studies. I initially went to study biomedicine, like every good brown girl does. But I realized that I had a passion for social justice. I really cared about these things, but I didn't have the language to articulate it. So sitting in university, I was suddenly learning about my own history, my own culture, things that I've faced, and had the language to talk about it, which is why I started sharing what I was learning on social media. Being like, we don't need this to just be in a university lecture. These things all affect us, whether it's racism, colorism, patriarchy. It affects us every single day. Let's talk about it. And then once I finished my arts degree, I did a Juris Doctor, so like a postgraduate Doctor of Law. And that was I felt like that was the toolkit that I gained on these values and learnings that I had. Like I understood the concepts, I understood how it applied, but now I have the tools to do something about it. And I finished law school in 2023.
Okay.
And last year was my first year of working full time as a lawyer.
Ooh.
It's been a big year. And then outside of all of that, I create content. I speak. I write. I do a lot of like advocacy and activism work. But I always say I was like an accidental activist. Like I just really believed in it. I was like, we need to talk about this. We've seen so many women and children experience the same thing, generations, and every single generation. We need to change something. That's why I started sharing it. People resonated, and that sort of propelled that career as well. And beyond that, I love to dance. I love to see my friends. I love to cook. I love to nap.
Very cheerful you are.
Very cheerful, but I do need my time to rot, which I call my like no one talk to me. I'm recharging.
The me time.
Me time.
Yes, that's important. So content creator, then you have activism, then you have legal field. They're three different, yet they're interconnected. How did you actually, like you kind of outlined of, how you went into these three places, but what was the thought process behind it? Like, did you actually, something kind of happened that you kind of thought, hey, I think this is my calling, right? I really want to stand up and advocate for, you talk about feminism, you talk about gender equality. We'll touch base on those things, right? Did something happen in the background that you thought, hey, I actually think that I really resonate this person? You can sometimes have a role model doing that as well. So tell us a little bit about the history behind your pathways.
See, I usually call that my why. And it's like, why do I do this? Why are we sitting here today? What's my why? I think the first sort of seeds of that was as a young girl sort of seeing like my mum, my extended family, lots of really smart, intelligent, kind women in my life who had all these dreams that I think socially you expected to park, to care for your family because of people saying you're a woman so you can't do these things, you're a woman, you can't go into politics, and those limitations. Like, I was so aware of it, and I used to be the girl that when the teacher would say the boys go pick up the chairs, I'd be like, I can do it too, and I'll pick up this chair and move it to the next classroom.
We want that, yes.
But now I'm like, I don't need to be a boy. I don't need to try and do what men do. There's so much power in being a woman that it's changed. But I think back then it was like this sense of, why are we treating people differently when we should be looking at potential, looking at innate talent, as opposed to saying you are this, so this is what it is. But I think, going back to what your question was, I think that seed was also seeing injustice and seeing how people were treated differently because they were women or because they came from a certain background. And as a child, I couldn't understand it. Like, I think when I spoke to my family, when I spoke to like elders in the community, they would say, oh, it's karma. It's the past things that you've done. That's why this is happening to people. But that's such a poor excuse. Like, if someone is experiencing violence, treated differently, women are treated differently, the excuse that I always got as a child was it's their past sins.
That's the perspective, right? People only know
especially
so
in our
much.
South Asian community.
Yes,
and I think that to me did not feel like a good enough reason. And I started researching a bit more. Like, when I was like 12, saying you were a feminist, and it still is to a certain extent a dirty word. People be like, oh, she's a feminist, like, okay, she's crazy, like this is what she cares about. When all you're saying is treat people the same. And I think that's why I spend so much time actually learning it and studying it at a university level as well, because it affects us every single day. Like, 50% of the population is women. 50% of income, wealth, all of it, like for businesses, like how, like appealing to that market, understanding what women want, understanding our health, like actually advocating for gender equality. That's where it started. And then over the years, just sort of watching how, like, I think through every life stage as women, like, we have so many expectations placed on ourselves, like look a certain way, act a certain way, talk a certain way. And I think this was a rebellion, but also a resistance to it. Being like, I can actually do things the way I want. And still be a good daughter, a good friend,
Absolutely.
a good partner, and ideally a good mother too. Like, it shouldn't be one or the other.
Yes. So you made an interesting point about feminism, right? There's always this negative angle when someone's saying that they're a feminist, right? So I would like you to tell your view about feminism. What is feminism, right? Just in a layman view, so people understand why there is a negative spin to it and what it actually means.
Yeah, I think feminism, in terms of a very simple definition, is the belief that all genders should be treated equally, equitably, and people shouldn't be treated differently based on their gender.
Correct.
And feminism comes from patriarchy, which is that system where the world, and if you look at politics, if you look at the way businesses are run, if you look at very simple things like the design of a safety belt, like a seat belt, they're all designed for men. They're designed for male bodies. It's because men have been centered in the creation of our society. And that is what patriarchy is, and the effects of that are the way women are treated, that sort of second-class citizen in certain situations, a lack of care of like women's health, women's safety, like the fact that women can't even go for a walk at night without issues around our safety, and that's not treated as like something that needs to be addressed immediately. That's all patriarchy. So feminism, patriarchy, it's like one's the oppressor, one's the thing that's trying to be the solution to it. To your question, Priyanka, I think the reason that feminism is treated negatively is because it challenges systems. It challenges a system where certain people benefit from it. I think men also have a lot of negative effects of it, like the fact that like men are treated as the provider and they can't be anything else, and you must be strong, you must not have emotions. That's still patriarchy. So it definitely affects men, but I think the reason it's treated as this dirty word is because of A, challenges systems, B, it's pop culture, movies, none of it helps. You have the crazy woman dressed really like in an ugly way, who's just like so angry at the world, and then she like takes off her glasses, and now all the boys like her, because that's the ultimate goal, right? It's like, how do we present ourselves to men? And I think that's why certain women as well say, okay, I'm not a feminist, because you don't want to like rock the boat. You want to keep the peace. You don't want to say anything. But the peace has never protected women. The peace has never helped women. It's only pushed us to hold up these systems.
Yeah.
And then I think the third reason is the fact that it's confronting. Like it's scary. Like you don't want to have to be the person that talks about these things.
Yes.
But the reason that I am a feminist, and I think people have a lot of issue with the word being femme. Like, why is it not equalist, all of that?
This whole thing in the social media and everywhere in the TV, feminist has got this negative spin, and people think that they have a lot of issues, they have a lot of complaints to make, right? But it is coming from a very, kind of a broken place. Let's just say there's elements of equality, equity, there's elements of representation, there's a lot of things. And like you said, all of those contribute to this whole activism, let's just say, right? The feminism is actually kind of a, what do we say, like a
movement,
correct?
And like to what you were saying, I think I used to not have an answer as a child, as a 16-year-old, to why is it feminist, why is it not equalist. The reason the word feminist is there is because it accounts for the fact that there is that discrepancy. Like, it's not equal. If it was equal, then we'd be advocating equally. But there is that discrepancy.
Yes.
And if that is your issue, that already says a lot. If your issue is the fact that we're centering women right now, if you care so much about men's rights, I think, then go do it. Like, it's not about that whataboutism.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, what about this? What about that?
Yes.
Go do it. Like, if that's what you're really believing in. But I think, I don't think people need to call themselves feminist. I don't think...
Well, there has to be a way of talking about that gap.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody will have to talk.
Yeah.
That came in, and then there's new words coming in.
Yeah.
And people are trying to avoid that word but still speak for it.
Which is fine. I think we shouldn't have to agree with everything everyone says. But I think it's less about identifying with movements and actually doing something about it on the ground and actually helping. And I think for me, one of the biggest reasons I'm so passionate about it is our entire lives we're taught your wedding, getting married, you'll find your man, all the fairy tales, all the stories end in a happily ever after where she finds her prince.
Yeah.
But what happens after?
Yeah.
What after the happily ever after, statistically, there are so many women face so many issues within patriarchy, but also in marriages, in relationships. But we're so hyper focused on wedding, get married, find a husband, but then we kind of abandon women once they're there.
Yeah.
Whether it's domestic violence, whether it's income, whether it's staying in jobs, we don't support women to balance these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we need feminism as well, because too many women, so many women sacrifice their dreams to uphold this system.
Totally. Yeah, we don't talk about those elements of women's sacrifices and how they balance out the things. Lovely, and I love the answer. I want to go into a little bit about colorism, right? So every South Asian woman, every South Asian girl can resonate with this, can relate to this when, we've grown up telling that don't go in the sun because you get tanned and you look this way, that way. I mean, all of this is fine, but you have been a very fierce advocate for colorism. So what are your personal experiences? Can you share some?
Yeah, I used to stand in front of the mirror as a child and be like, okay, where else am I pretty? Because my skin is too dark, so what else do I have?
Oh my gosh.
But do you know what I mean?
It's sad too.
It is sad,
yeah.
But it was really sad, but I think I was like, okay, I'm a solution-oriented girl. I'm if my skin color is the problem, then I remember smiling and I have a nice smile. Okay, smile, perfect. That's something that I can focus on instead. But the my personal experience with colorism was that it was everywhere. Like if you went into a supermarket, Fair and Lovely, lightning cream.
Grew up with that ad, and it's
the
not
ad
great.
is she's depressed because she's dark. She uses this cream.
Suddenly,
2 weeks later, now everyone loves her. Everyone wants to see her, talk to her. Like that was the messaging.
Yeah.
At school, it would be, don't go out in the sun, you'll get darker. Family would be like, oh, you're so beautiful, but dark. Here, have you tried this cream? Have you tried this lotion? My cousin's daughter did this, try this. You go to the salon, they'll be like, oh, have you tried lemon and baking soda? It helps with dark underarms. Like, it was just everywhere. Like, my nickname at school, and this was from my best friends, like my closest friends, was Black. And it was because I was like, if this is going to be an issue, let me own it. And I still take that approach. But as a 12-year-old, to be like, I'm sick of people teasing me about it, I'm instead going to own it.
Yeah.
And it really takes a toll on your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and how you carry yourself in the world when you think that there's something fundamentally wrong with me because I am darker. And it's not something I was born with. Like, I didn't as a child believe this. It was taught to me, and taught to me by people that I love as well. And I think now I love my skin. Like, I'm genuinely, like, whether it's in modeling or makeup or even just on the everyday, I love my skin.
You're absolutely beautiful, and you're kind of like the person who's basically kind of promoting that as well. Like, there are people who are not coming out, but they still have the same feeling, right? It's very important to have somebody actually say, hey, you look beautiful the way you are. Skin color does not matter. And they look up to someone who actually speaks up. And since you're doing really good, you're actually, supporting a lot of women out there that could be possibly thinking like, they're not good enough just because they're looked certain way, or, they don't fit in, or somebody's made this whole attempt of actually putting them down that,
Which is why I think, like, I keep saying it. Like, I know now my skin color is not ugly, but I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to sit back, because we should not have any more little boys and girls or women and men believing that. Like, that's simply not true.
Yeah.
And I think, secondly, I'm so excited to become a generation of aunties that don't body shame people, call them fat when they see them, tell them they're dark, point out their flaws. Because what are we doing to the people that we love? Like, why are we creating insecurities, dimming down confidence? We should be telling young girls and boys and men and women how incredible they are for all the different things that they do. And our skin tone is beautiful.
Yes.
Like, if we are pointing out our own flaws within our own community, what hope do we have in pushing ourselves forward in the wider world?
Absolutely, yes. So, speaking of fashion, right? Do you think the current fashion standards include or cater for South Asian women, all sizes, all colors, sort of thing? What's your view on that?
That's really interesting, because I think our South Asian culture, we have such a rich culture. Like, look at a wedding, right?
Yeah.
Like, in Western culture, you're like, don't dress up too much, you might upstage the bride. In our culture, you can never upstage the bride.
No.
Like, that's
Bring
how...
it on, baby.
Bring it on. That's how beautiful our clothes, our jewelry, like, the colors, the vibrancy, it's just incredible. And I think fashion labels, especially now with the clean girl trend, minimalism, all that, it doesn't, firstly, in my opinion, cater to our richness, but I don't expect it to. Like, we need our creatives doing it. We need our South Asian fashion designers leading that charge. But in terms of mainstream fashion, how often do you see beautiful South Asian women and men on billboards represented in campaigns?
It's hard, especially in Australia. You don't see much of that representation.
But also, even in South Asia, it's always fair skin.
Fair skin, correct.
Slim. Like, it's such a specific beauty standard that it's almost, for me, being cathartic to see it happen in Hollywood with, like, Bridgerton and Simona Ashley, for example. Like, that was one of the first times I've seen anyone that has a skin tone similar to mine represented, and not represented as, oh my God, she's dark, but she's beautiful. But she's just beautiful. There's no caveats on it.
No.
She's hot, she's great, she's smart,
amazing,
she's everything.
yeah.
But that shouldn't be, I shouldn't have to be It shouldn't be happening in 2024. It should have happened decades ago. Because South Asian beauty standards apply both in the West and in South Asia. But it's so much more pervasive in countries like India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, where you, tell me a dark-skinned actress in Bollywood.
I mean, there are a few people, but it's always hard to find. There's not much of scope for them.
And their career is limited. And the way they're portrayed is different. They're portrayed, it becomes a part of their identity as opposed to just existing, just beautiful, just as they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I struggled with as a child. And I think, going back to your question, even in campaigns, in modelling in Australia, you don't see enough of it. Even with media events that I attend, it's still a very specific beauty standard. It's usually white, usually blonde. It's that Aussie beauty standard. And I think we need to disrupt that, because if you look at our community, it's different. The beauty standard is multiculturalism. The beauty standard is our differences.
Yeah.
And I think labels and fashion brands have a huge responsibility to cater to that market, because it's profitable.
We need to also feel belonged. If you see somebody from our culture represent, even if I'm going into I'm shopping online, and you'd like to see how it looks like, how that outfit looks like on our skin tone, right? It's not always like the white skinny girl wearing the dress. It's perfect, looks good, but how would it look on me, right?
Yeah.
There are some brands that are actually doing that, but they don't.
It's not enough.
Not everybody
should be
does
the
that.
exception. That should be the norm. Do you want a bigger customer base? Do you want your customers to be able to see the products and what it looks like on them? Totally. Even when you're makeup shopping, there'll be 15 shades of white and then 4 shades of brown, and usually the undertones don't match our skin. Figure it out, mix your foundations.
Exactly, yeah.
I was shopping for makeup the other day, and it's literally a copy paste of the swatches on a brown hand.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's not how it works. So that's it's not enough. I never shop online for makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work, because of the brands not being inclusive. But I think there's a lot more people calling it out, and brands being a bit more receptive to it. But it needs to be more than tokenistic, I think.
Yes. Next question was that.
Okay.
So genuine inclusion versus tokenism, right? How would you actually distinguish between these two? There are brands that actually do that genuine inclusion. They have all these campaigns going on with different skin shades, different sizes, etc. Where some brands have a model or two just to cover, right? Let's forget about branding and fashion industry, etc. But how would one actually distinguish, right? Yeah, let's talk about that.
I think firstly, trust your gut. Consumers are smart, we are smart. You can tell when it's artificial. But I think, to me, where tokenism comes in is when you have placed a person of color, merely plopped them into a set and said, okay, tick, done.
Yeah.
And I think diversity is so much more than gender. Diversity is so much more than race. Diversity is so much more than body type. If you're truly committed to it, you can tell. It shows. What's your actual back-end leadership like? Are people of color treated like shit in your workplaces? Do you know what I mean? There's no point having the most diverse front-facing campaigns if your team at the back doesn't treat people equally. But I think how you spot tokenism is, look at the history of the brand. Are they covering up? Are they doing it because it's trending?
Yeah.
Right now, all sorts of brands are now pulling back on stuff with what's going on in the world. That tells you a lot. That tells you that you're not committed, you're following a trend. And on the topic of trends, I think my biggest sort of call to action for our South Asian community is to trust our creative instinct, trust our designs. I don't know if you've seen the dupatta being the Scandinavian scarf.
Yeah.
And all the dresses now with the skinny scarf. That's a South Asian design. Jewelry, it's not bohemian, it's Indian, it's Sri Lankan jewelry.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't become trendy because white people like it. Our jewelry, our clothes, our culture is rich and beautiful. We don't need white brands and white models to validate that.
Correct.
We should have been wearing dupattas with jeans
Yeah.
long before.
Yes.
it was trending.
It's not just about someone, white culture endorsing that and it's become suddenly trendy, but it also, I think it also comes on to us, right? If we really want to flaunt it off, we should actually adapt little bits and bobs of our culture and flaunt it off, and then whether it goes into like, trend or not is fine, but I think we should still own that, right?
Because it's our individuality.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've really tried to lean into it more lately and just be more honest and follow my creative instinct and speak our truth, wear our clothes, wear our fashion.
Yeah.
Because that's how you also create inclusivity. You don't wait for someone else to say, hey, it's okay for you to do that.
Yeah.
You go out and you do it for yourself.
Yeah. Hey, on that topic, I was actually talking to a friend a few months back, and we were talking about this quota system, right? To actually have opportunities given to different races, different backgrounds, etc. In India, it works differently. In US, it works differently. In Australia, probably it works differently, right? Every country's got this different kinds of quota system. What do you think about it? Like, say, for example, in university, there are like quota systems given so that, a background, like, if your background, less income or different races, so that everybody gets equal opportunities, right? And I believe that we should have it because of the history of what had happened. You see that in the leadership positions. There's always this white men, not even women. Majority of that is taken by white men. And I feel like it's an amazing system in place, but there are controversial things about it, right? Some people might actually do really good, but they didn't make it because somebody else who didn't do that good, but because they fall into that quota made it. So this person's perspective would be like, hey, I deserve it, but because of the quota system, I couldn't get in. What do you think about the quota system?
That's a great question. I think for me, quotas, they serve a purpose, and that purpose is adjusting for systemic disadvantage or historic injustice. And I think, and adjusting for equity, because have you heard of that analogy where if there's a fence and there's three people of three different heights,
totally,
not everyone's going to be able to see over. And the traditional metric is give the shorter person a taller thing.
Yes.
But I'm like, let's get rid of that fence. Like, let's get rid of that fence. And to get rid of that fence, you need people there. You need people to charge on, storm ahead, because we can't just say, okay, we're smashing glass ceilings. What are we doing to lift the floor?
Yeah.
Because it's not as easy as we have a female CEO, we have achieved gender equality perfect. What are you actually doing for all the women that are coming before? But I also think quotas, research shows that they're useful. And the idea that quotas disrupt a meritocracy, so a system where people are only given roles based on merit, that's not true, because meritocracy has never operated without bias. Like, if we were truly focused on meritocracy, then so many people in power right now would be there.
Yeah.
The same people that are harping on about meritocracy are some of the least qualified people to be in that role.
Correct, yeah.
And I think where I sit with quotas is it helps to get qualified, competent people into that room. Like, if you have a quota system for doctors, you're not going to be giving people who are not doctors that role. So this idea of, anyone can get in, that's simply not true. And it's simply people projecting this fear that if I let other people in, I'm going to lose opportunity. Equal opportunity means everyone equally gets a shot at it.
Yeah.
And some people need a bit more support because of equity.
Yes. Yeah.
And like for the financial disadvantage, for example, like if you're the first in your family to go to university, if you have to work full-time or part-time to support yourself during university, that's a very different set of circumstances. Someone who may live at home and have so much support.
Yeah.
And this isn't saying one is right, one is wrong. It's just being realistic.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that and support people.
Yeah. Lovely. Because I feel like the quota systems are basically future-proofing, right? We get people of different races, different backgrounds will actually add on to the diversification of anything, right?
Yeah.
And you really put it
because
really well.
Even if you look at from a corporate perspective, like the number of female CEOs, the amount of female CEOs who are multicultural is a tiny percentage of that.
Oh, you hardly
So
find
then to
them.
turn around and say we've achieved gender equality because we were 50-50 split is simply not true, because true diversity, true multiculturalism, true equality isn't just 50-50. It's reflecting the actual workforce, the people that are working really hard behind the scenes. And I think for that, we also need to reconceptualize how we look at leadership.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be confident, masculine traits. Like, you can be an incredible leader who's a bit more soft-spoken, who is kind, empathetic, compassionate, or within our cultures, like, supports authority, works together as a team. Like, this needs to change from the bottom up, but also from the top down.
Yeah.
It has to be everyone working together, and quotas is one part of that system that works together to achieve true equality.
Yeah, yeah. I could go on about it, right?
Same.
The leadership roles and all of those things, but I think I want to touch base on a little bit of your side.
Okay.
So you're wearing multiple hats. You're in law, you're doing content creation, you're also modeling, you're very like active in, you know, talking about different elements of, you know, feminism, colorism, etc. So you're pretty much active, and I see you in a lot of events promoting all of this stuff. So it's important to make space for your mental well-being, that me time. So how do you balance that?
I don't, but I do. Like, it's a bit funny. Sometimes you're just multitasking, and sometimes some weeks are crazy. Like, sometimes you're just so tired, but you do it because you believe, I really believe that I'm building something, I'm helping people, I'm creating a change, and that helps. That helps to sort of go do the really hard things when you're tired. But it's that really strong belief of, I'm building foundations for things that I care about.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful. Like, I think as a child, I would have loved to know that this kind of work exists. I would have loved to see people doing this sort of stuff. And I always use like my younger self as my barometer to figure out if I'm doing a good job. I'm like, would 12-year-old Devni think this Devni is cool? And
Sweet.
that, I'm being dead serious. Like, it's such a, like, it's like I'm still advocating for that little girl that didn't feel she had the words to speak up, didn't feel supported, felt like her entire role was this very specific thing. And I think women can do so many different things. We can model, but we can also be taken seriously in a courtroom. We can dress how we want, say what we want, and still be taken really seriously, because we are competent.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have to minimize ourselves, make ourselves smaller, say things in a very specific way to be taken seriously. And you didn't mention mental health.
Yeah.
I used to, and I still sometimes do, but I used to really struggle with my mental health. So, and I don't talk about this a lot, but one of the reasons why I moved to Australia at 17 was because in year 11 in school, when I was in Colombo, I was really struggling with my mental health. It was like my parents, and they tried to be really supportive, and they were really supportive, but they also struggled with, but she's smiling, she's happy, how could she also be struggling with her mental health? And there was stigma around it as well. Like, people used to say, if you're depressed, then what should I be? As if you need a certain level of something to validate your experiences.
I hear a lot of this in South Asian. I'm not sure what happens outside, but I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, with mental health, there is the environmental stuff, but there's also biological stuff. Like, there's mental health history in the family. I've got polycystic ovarian syndrome, which messes with my hormones.
Yeah.
And especially as a teenager, that manifested in depression and anxiety. And, like, I've really struggled, but it wasn't always obvious because I also did a very good job of pretending and holding it together, because I didn't know how else to be honest with my feelings.
Yeah.
And in year 11, I dropped out of school. And I dropped out of school because I overdosed and I attempted on my life.
Oh my God.
And for my parents, like, just a couple of hours before that, we went for dinner as a family.
Wow.
And then I got home and I was like, okay, I've done this. I've sat with my family. I don't see the point. I was like, people who are successful also suffering and like dealing with so much shit. People who are struggling to like make ends meet and struggling to, so they're all, everyone, no one seems truly happy. What is going on? And that was my reason. I just didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing in this life.
And especially because you're so young as well.
Yeah.
15, 16-year-olds. So.
And I was seeing so much injustice. But I just felt like there was nothing that could be done. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But that was coupled with really severe mental health issues. Like, that feeling alone shouldn't warrant that. But I needed help. I needed good psychological support. I needed people to sit and understand. And I just needed like support. And I think this is why I talk about it. Because we are so silent about it. We're all silently suffering and silently navigating these things. And if we just talked about it, we would feel less alone.
Correct, yeah.
And so I was 16 then, I'm 26 now. In the last 10 years, the amount of people that have messaged on social media, for example, on Instagram, to say, thank you for talking about it. I am also dealing with this. Siblings of friends who would not even tell their sibling, feeling comfortable enough to message. Because if we don't talk about it and we keep it inside, we're just going to keep hiding it, and like it doesn't solve anything. We shouldn't feel alone, because we're not alone. What I realized is what I was feeling, so many other people were feeling.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was the only person in the world that felt like that, and therefore I didn't see a way out.
This is exactly what happens with people who don't talk the problem out. It's important to share. And
I saw a psychologist for 5.5 years, like a psychiatrist. I've tried medicine, I've done lots of talking, because I had to process so many things. And now the reason I feel so much more better, can manage all these different things, and also truly take care of my mental health, is because I've built those systems. I've got processes, I have things that I do, I can notice when things are getting bad, and I can support myself. And now I'm really lucky to be able to also feel like I can support other people.
Yes, yeah.
And speak about it and talk about it in terms of what can be done.
And it's very important. Mental health is so important to be able to do anything, and the right support. If you do not have right support, it can go downhill, right?
And in our community, we don't talk about it.
It's hard,
And like, at least with young people, like our age, we have the words, we talk about it. But I always think about older generations who are also struggling, but they have no way to speak about it. So by us speaking about it and us being open about our feelings, and not just saying, okay, she's happy, so how can she have mental health issues? But actually speaking about it, like with body image, being like, okay, being thin isn't the best thing if your mental health is sacrificed for it. We're also empowering our elders in our community to be honest about their feelings.
Yeah.
So we're all learning together.
Totally.
And I think if we keep talking about it, we keep making people feel less alone.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to switch to a little bit of
shake it off
out of this serious stuff, and I want to ask you something. So for the people who know you on social media and Instagram, they know you for what you are. What is the one thing that they don't know?
I don't talk about this a lot.
Okay.
But I call myself also a full-time older sister and a full-time older sister of triplets.
Whoa, triplets.
And to anyone listening, that was the genesis of my trust issues. So when I was a 6-year-old, all my friends had siblings. I really wanted a sibling. I wish I could go back in time. I'm joking. If my siblings are listening, I am joking. But I begged my parents for a sibling. And they were like, okay, we'll give you what you want because you're an only child and you don't take no for an answer. And my mom got pregnant. And for 9 months, she was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, whoa, pregnant women are huge. Like, why is she so big? Like, she's tiny. And like, she had like a thing to like help her reach the table. And then I went to the hospital, Priyanka, as a 6-year-old. This was in London. Went to the hospital, and I get to the hospital and I see my baby brother. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got a brother. This is so exciting. Then the nurse comes up to me and goes, do you want to see your sister?
Okay.
And I was like, this has to be a joke. Like, this cannot be real. So then I walk across and see my sister.
Yeah.
And then she comes up to me and she goes, do you want to see your other brother?
Whoa.
When I am brown. I love a sale, right?
Yeah.
But this was the worst buy two, get one free. Like, buy one, get two free. And so I got to the hospital sitting in the front seat of the car. I left in the boot. Because there were 3 car seats, my parents, and I was in the boot.
Yeah.
So I was an only child. And now there's triplets. I am so proud of them. Like, they're incredible young people now. They're 21.
Yeah.
But my entire life, I was the triplet sister.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't talk about it a lot, but I think me wanting to help and fix the world, I think so much of it also comes from being that person growing up. Like the one that held everything and kind of did stuff for my family and took care of my siblings and supported them, even though I don't think they'll agree.
Okay. Probably there's some kind of not so true about it.
I don't know, but when they're applying for jobs or internships, I'm proofreading 3 different cover letters, looking at different essays. I'm a full-time secretary to the 3 of them.
I can feel you. I'm the elder sister as well, so yeah. Okay, so you're a Gen Z girl, and I'm not. I'm a millennial. So teach me some Gen Z language, dude. I was watching this reel, and this girl was talking. She's a millennial, so she was saying, one of the interns said no cap or something. I was searching the whole room for a cap or something, and I'm like, dude, this is going. So yeah, teach me some.
I'll give you an easy one and then add on to it. Okay.
Okay. So what am I supposed to guess?
I'll tell you a word and you've got to figure out what it means.
Oh my God! Don't kill me, okay?
What is aura?
Aura is probably aura is your demeanor or something.
Yeah, so like your vibe, how you like what your vibe is, right? What's aura farming?
Spreading positivity, sort of thing. Spreading your
aura farming.
Farming.
Yeah. Okay, so aura farming.
You're putting your thoughts into somebody.
And you're plowing it for seeds?
Yeah.
No.
Is that? Shit.
So aura farming is when you try really hard to essentially trying hard to look pretty, to act as to be
wannabe.
Yeah, kind of like you wannabe, exactly.
Okay.
But you're trying hard, so you're farming aura.
Try harder.
Like you're putting, you're building seeds and stuff to build your aura.
Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
Right.
And if
you use it normally?
Yeah, if someone's trying to be she's aura farming.
Oh my God, that sounded like such a positive word, but it's not.
Yeah, it's so mean.
I'm scared of Gen Zs.
It's so mean. I think it's actually so mean. I don't really believe in that. I think we should be shining our light.
Oh gosh.
But Gen Z can be brutal with some of the stuff that they say.
Right. I'm scared.
Yeah, a little bit scared too. And I think because I'm a little bit older, so I'm not my siblings are true Gen Z.
Okay.
Also, you know what chat is? I'm going to ask chat.
Chat. Not talking?
Chat GPT.
Okay.
AI has infiltrated our souls.
Right.
So my sister was like, I'm going to ask
pet
chat.
name to ChatGPT? Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. We're here. This is where we're at right now.
Right. I know Delulu.
Is not the Salulu.
What?
Delulu is not the Salulu. Is being delusional is not the solution.
Okay.
But you got to be Delulu. You've got to believe in yourself.
By being delusional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you've got to show up the way you want to show up, and it is the solution.
Right. Okay.
Have I stressed you out a bit?
I have. Yeah.
Or maybe not. You'll be wearing a pair of jorts, a little cropped up, and a bum bag soon to pick up your son from school. Gen Z mom.
No.
Because you'd be aura farming.
Yeah.
I think you just...
Oh my God. I can't speak the language.
My mum finds it really funny that digital cameras are back.
Okay.
So we've gone the full cycle of incredible quality on iPhones to now Gen Z getting their parents' old cameras and using digital cameras again.
They are? Okay. And what do they get out of it?
Just the vibe.
The old vibe.
And sometimes digital cameras that kind of lighting on the pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're going back in time with women's rights and clothes and all of it.
Mm-hmm. So I learned aura farming. Delulu and Solulu.
Solulu.
And what was the other one?
Aura, then jorts.
Jorts.
Jean shorts.
Oh my God, jean shorts are called as jorts. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Thank you for teaching me some
You're welcome.
Gen Z language. It's hard to follow, but I'd rather stick to normal language.
I feel like I'm a millennial Gen Z in the middle. Like I'm 98, so I'm on the cusp.
Good.
Which is good for me as well.
That's comforting.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap up, can you share some wise words, words of wisdom for the South Asian girls?
I don't know if I have words of wisdom, but something...
Because we want somebody breaking barriers like you are, so...
I think something that I really believe in is you have a calling for a reason. So for a very long time, I was like, okay, I'm passionate about these things, but I need to do this because this is what society and my parents and people expected me. But you have a calling for a reason. And you are doing a disservice to yourself, to the world, to everyone around you if you don't follow that calling. In whatever capacity, it doesn't have to be your full-time job. We don't have to monetize everything. But if you have something that you're passionate about, follow it. No matter what it looks like to people, and I think especially young girls, we censor ourselves so much, we change the way we act, we minimize ourselves because we're worried about what boys will think about us. And I truly say this from like, I want to scream this being like, de-sentiment. Focus on yourself, focus on your female friendships, focus on how incredible you are as a person without expecting any person with any romantic partner, including men, to validate that. You don't need validation to be an incredible person because you bloom and the birds and the bees and everything will come, but you just need to grow as a person. And I think there's been so much in our community, we're so focused on what people think about us that we don't do things that we truly believe in. I always say, go for it. If you have an idea, it's there for a reason. Truly believe in yourself. Work hard. You have to work hard. Things aren't just going to come and fall out your doors for your feet without working hard. But follow your dreams and speak your truth. Like, be authentic. Don't lose your integrities. Don't lose your values for it. Speak your truth, but be powerful because we have so much power. We don't need to be empowered. It's there. We just need to do it.
It was indeed a powerful chat with you. Lovely to have you on the show.
Thanks,
I really enjoyed the whole journey, your journey, knowing you, some of the elements I did not know from your social media or anything. So that's really good to know you, and thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode with us. This is your host Priyanka signing off until next episode.